Alrighty, guys, welcome back to the Left of Str8 Show interviews, the premier podcast that shares the stories of our amazing LGBTQ community and, of course, fantastic straight allies, all from entertainment, foodies, books, music, and advocacy. I'm your host, as always, Scott Fullerton, and let's start talking. Welcome back, friends. Today, I'm thrilled to have Ben Chavez in studio with me today. He's a multifaceted talent in the entertainment industry. He's captivated audiences nationwide for his portrayal of Omar in Disney's Aladdin National Tour. And beyond the stage, he's a gifted singer, songwriter, and pianist known for his dynamic performances and heartfelt compositions. He's currently based in Houston and has recently released a new Christmas song. Y'all know how I love Christmas. Adding to his impressive repertoire, and he'll be back on the board soon as part of the ensemble and swing for Kristoff for the Houston Tut's upcoming production of Frozen. I can't wait to delve into his journey from theater stages to recording studios, exploring the experiences that have shaped his artistic path. But first, let's take a look.
We had a fight the other night and I'm sorry. Holidays aren't the best for me. Don't know how to be merry and bright this season. Maybe this time, couldn't we try to start over? 'Cause I can't do Christmas alone again. But I know I can give you a million reasons why through all this lonely weather we should still be back together. And I don't want anything under the tree, 'cause I just want you to be here where you belong in my arms this Christmas. I don't need a tree that's been covered in lights.
Alrighty, guys, we are back. That was In Your Arms This Christmas by my special guest today, Mr. Ben Chavez. Ben, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing really well, Scott. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you. Of course, you've been a good friend of our buddy Johnny over at the Queer Centric for a year or so now. So I've seen your interviews with him. And then when I saw new Christmas music, it's like, why haven't I had him on the show for the last year? Because you are such a talented human being, my friend. So welcome.
Thank you. I love Johnny too. He's so great. I've been on his program a few times and I'm just happy to be here with you.
Well, thank you so much. He is a nice guy for sure. And let's talk about my first two questions I ask all first-timer virgins here on Left of Str8 Show interviews. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what kind of a kid were you? You're from the East Coast, is over where I'm at, right?
Yeah, East Coast baby. I grew up in Jersey. My first home, my childhood home, was in East Rutherford, New Jersey. So it's the same town where the Giants and Jets play.
Nice.
Football, for those who don't know. Um,
Sports ball for
and
the queers like me. Okay,
sports
I
ball for the
got you.
queers. I was one of those kids that actually never played on a sports team, and I'm to this day I give my parents praise and thanks that they never stuck me on a team. They never made me play a sport because A, they could clearly see that I was no good at it, and I had no business hitting a ball or catching a football. Um, but they noticed my kind of magnetic passion for the arts. And my mom got us a little keyboard when I was probably like 3 years old, and I was able to very early on listen to songs, listen to recordings, and having no experience reading sheet music, was able to just kind of reproduce the melodies on the piano. And
Wow.
so my parents learned pretty early on that I was able to play by ear, which is a unique skill that some people have. Some people really rely on sheet music. They can't play without reading. I actually don't really read kind of at all. I mean, I can plunk my way through things, and if I really spend some time with sheet music, I can read. But really, it's been about playing by ear. So I grew up listening to the Billy Joel Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2. It was a 2-disc set, and that's like the greatest gift that my parents gave to me, was that set, because listening to those songs growing up, that's what taught me how to play piano. And I always kind of credit Billy Joel as being my piano teacher. His songs, of course, are incredible. The storytelling is beautiful, but the piano is established in such a way that um, it's easy for beginner pianists to kind of break into. And as you get more familiar with the songs, you can sort of flourish and add more and more and more. So I was that kid who was just always doing, the piano lessons, coming up with songs, having little sing-alongs with my neighbors. Um, and then, around 5 or 6, I started dancing and doing acting and vocal lessons. And I just wanted to do anything that had to do with being on stage. And that's just kind of been my whole life.
I love that. If you're going to emulate anyone, Billy Joel is the way to go. I am a bear of a certain age, as we know, and one of my top 5 concert experiences ever was Billy Joel and Elton John playing together. And they had 4 pianos around the stage and kind of did it in the round. It was amazing.
That's a concert I would have loved to have been able to see. I
Oh,
mean, I just can't even imagine. I'm a huge fan of both of theirs, and to see them both still going strong. I just saw Billy Joel in concert about 3 weeks ago in San Antonio. San Antonio. He's like 76, and he's still like
still just
flying
grooving,
around the
right?
keys, twirling the mic stand in the air. He's amazing.
I love that. Second question I ask everyone new to the show. You're a very out and proud artist, which I love. Talk to me about that journey to yourself. When did you first coming out to yourself? And where do you feel you started to find your LGBTQ tribe?
Yeah. This has been such a huge part of my artistic journey. I mean, looking back, I could see traces of my queerness from when I was like 5. Just kind of crushing on the older guys in the dance school. But I think I really finally came out to myself, officially when I was in high school, and I was trying to really fit the mold of yeah, I didn't really even date girls, but I was trying to kind of find my way into possibly dating a girl, and it just wasn't feeling right. And thankfully, I went to a school, a county high school in Hackensack, New Jersey, called the Bergen County Academies, which was a magnet school where you could major in a different field. So they had an arts major for either visual or performing arts, and I was a performing arts major in high school, and it was a really accepting, affirming, friendly, kind environment. And it was safe to be a queer kid in that high school, and I'm so grateful for that I got to, have my first boyfriend in high school, and not have a problem with it, and everyone, all my peers were super cool with it. But it took me a while to kind of bring my parents into the fold. That didn't really happen until I was in college. So I was kind of tiptoeing around in high school, and in college I brought my parents into it. And at first it was a little rough,
Mm.
because I just don't think that, I don't know if they didn't sense it, or if they just kind of, let's hope that that's not what's happening. But it was hard, and I think mostly because they were just worried about me. They didn't want me to have to struggle. So, but that ebb and flow with my family and with my own identity is definitely a big part of my art. It's a big part of my songwriting. When you listen to my music, you'll notice that it's a lot about self-acceptance. All of my songs have some kind of a message. And though I don't consider myself like extremely religious, I do feel like songwriters have some kind of ministerial obligation. We want people to connect to our songs in a personal way that is relevant to their lives. And so, for queer folks especially, I think that they'll be able to really connect to my songs.
Well said, my friend. I love that. And I think that I've been doing this for 9 years now, and you've kind of hit the nail on the head where I think parents, things come more out of fear for their child and wanting to have the best life than anything else. So it's a very natural progression. Luckily, people are being a lot more accepting, a lot more quicker because they understand the options. But yeah, it definitely is. I can see the fear base for them. So
Yeah,
well
for
said.
sure.
Well, and talk about the college experience. A little school, Tisch, New York University. Might have heard of it. Lady Gaga, Whoopi Goldberg, couple people from there.
Couple famous
Talk about
people.
that experience and what was that like in kind of forming your direction to where you wanted to do.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, my hometown was in North Jersey and just a stone's throw away from Manhattan. In fact, from my hometown, we can see the Empire State Building in the distance. And so Manhattan was always kind of my backyard. And I would go into the city as a kid with my mom and my friends, and we would see Broadway shows, or I would do a dance class, in the city. And that was like our treat. That was like our, maybe twice a month, little kind of adventure for a day or for a weekend. So I always had that sort of pull towards the city. And when it came time for me to decide on colleges, there was kind of no other route. Even my mom was like, you're going to school for theater. You love to do this. This is what you do. NYU was my number one school. I didn't apply to very many, but I knew that if I got in there, it was just, I was going to seal the deal on NYU. So I got into this new program. I was the second graduating class of their new musical theater program at Tisch. And it was just awesome. I mean, it was so cool to be working with instructors who were still actively working professionally in the industry. So some of my teachers would come in and teach us during the day, and then they would say, okay, I got to go off to my Broadway show at night. And to be working with those folks who were, vibrant in the community and well known, that was such a gift. And then, to after class was over, my friends and I would go out and see theater. And NYU was really great about giving us discounted or free tickets to go see what was happening in town. So I was always just immersed in a world of either performance or seeing live theater. And I still stay connected with my college friends, and I would say that a lot of the work experiences that I've had have been born of some connection made by one of my professors. And so it was just an awesome time. And the Village is one of the best places to hang out in New York. So I was just in the heart of New York for those years. It was just a blast.
I love that. And then your talent is just winning out, my friend. I mean, Kennedy Center, Madison Square Garden with the Rockettes for a Christmas spectacular, which we'll be talking about Christmas even more later. I mean, the opportunities are amazing, but just to be recognized in that town and be able to work those venues, that's got to be a guy's dream come true.
It's pretty great. The first concert in New York I think I ever saw was Billy Joel with my mom. And I would eventually go on to perform at the Garden and at the theater at Madison Square Garden a couple times. It's so gratifying to see all the work that you've put into a particular craft just come to fruition in a very public way. It's so rewarding and gratifying. And I know that my mom, she celebrates all of the successes as much as I do, if not more. She's invested a lot of time and money and dropped me off at the lessons. Like, she's done this for my whole life. And so nobody really is more proud than she is of all the opportunities that I'm able to be a part of.
I love that. Amazing. And talk about, I want to hear about this experience. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. Tell me about the Cobaltians. I mean,
Yeah.
you are like a prodigy from early on. I have my little spies in New York City, and they're telling me all about the sunglasses, and the performances were amazing. So talk about this. They saw you at Studio 54, I believe, below some of the cast from there, but talk about creating that.
Yeah. That was a while ago. Cobaltians was my first really big writing project. I didn't try my hand at composing until probably like midway through college, when one of my classmates, whose name is Yanni, he's one of my best friends still to this day. He's an incredible lyricist and book writer. He writes these amazing stories and plays. And we just tried collaborating on something. We did like a little 15-minute musical about Barbie and Ken, long before the movie was ever, a glimmer in someone's eye.
Right.
Um, And then after the success of that short little piece, we submitted this one-act musical called The Cobaltians to the New York Musical Theater Festival, which sadly is no longer around. But at the time, that was how a lot of new musicals got discovered. And so here we are, these like 21-year-olds submitting this project with all these experienced people. And our project got selected. We got a produced run of it at a small off-Broadway theater. And at the end of the festival, we won the award for outstanding music. So that's when I kind of got a hunch that maybe this songwriting thing is something I might want to dive deeper into. And I'm forever grateful for that experience, because now we've written several musicals together, and I have a handful of songs that are streaming, and I think in all I've probably written like 150 songs maybe. So
Amazing.
yeah.
Wow, how cool is that? And let's talk about going on this journey now with Aladdin. You've done two touring companies for it. Talk
Yeah.
about that, and that kind of it even brought you through Houston. That's where you're at now, and your husband will talk about in a minute. But just talk about that experience. I mean, a
Yeah.
touring show is a lot different than sitting sitting at your home base, right? And able to go see a musical and write everything. You are on the road, my friend. Talk about
Right.
that experience.
Yeah, up until the point where I booked Aladdin in 2019, I was doing a lot of regional work. For those who are not so familiar with that, basically you go to a theater somewhere in the country, a professional theater, and sometimes it can be a short summer stock gig, as short as 1 to 2 weeks. But I would say on average, a lot of them last a couple months, 2, 3, sometimes 4 months or more. So I was doing a lot of regional work at theaters around the country. And Aladdin was the first really huge break for me. To be working on kind of the Broadway level was a huge move in my career. It was my first really big leading role. So I hit the road in 2019 and did that for a year. Um, there's nothing like being on the road. Doing what you love, seeing the country, and we actually did some Canadian stops too, so I got to see a bit of the world. Um, and just performing for audiences all over the place, and Aladdin is such a joyful show. So of course the audiences were full of kids and their parents, and to think that you could be inspiring some kid in Little Rock, Arkansas, who could become a big star someday. Everyone gets that first experience that they really connect with the arts, and it's like, that's what I want to do. So that's a really huge gift as a performer. But I did that for a year in 2019, and early 2020, of course, COVID shut us down. So we were down for a couple years. And then they relaunched the tour after the pandemic was started to simmer down. And so I joined the second national as well, playing the same role, and did that for another year. So it was an amazing experience.
Wow. And you're such a goof off, Ben. I mean, we have a pandemic that goes on, and all you do is raise $20,000 for charity, start doing these live events. I mean, why don't you make something of your life someday, my friend?
I know, get
Jeez
a life.
Louise. Congratulations on that. That's awesome.
That was so cool. We were just sitting around twiddling our thumbs, and after a certain point, I'm like, okay, something's got to give. We need to do something, and we need to cheer some people up, and why don't we do some charity work at the same time? So for about a year, my now husband and I did this weekly piano bar 1 hour show on Instagram Live, and we would just choose a charity every week. Anything from health related charities to human rights organizations. And by the end of it all, we got just above $20,000 for charities, and it gave people something to do. People would look forward to it every week. They would pour themselves a glass of wine and tune in, and we would just have a blast for an hour taking song requests. It was one of my favorite experiences, and it definitely turned a huge negative into a positive.
Good on you guys for doing that. I mean, it's so important to be able to give back, and you've worked with so many charities I read about over the years. So that is amazing. You talk about doing with your husband. You meet Walker in Texas. If he's a Ranger, I'm going to lose my shit all of a sudden, but that's okay. I love Jared Pilecki, so yeah. But talk about this. Talk about this random encounter of meeting your husband. That you have now a song you've written about him. What an
Yeah.
amazing love story.
It's bonkers how the world works, how the universe just conspires to make things happen. I had never even been to Texas in my whole life. And here I am on tour. I think I was like 26 at the time. Coming to Texas for the first time ever. And I don't know what to expect. You know, you think Texas, you think there's cowboys and horses just roaming around. I don't know. I grew up in Jersey. We didn't have any of that stuff. And Houston, I came to realize, is just a really bustling arts hub and super diverse. And, you know, it's queer friendly. It's a great city. But anyway, we played for 3 weeks with Aladdin at the a touring theater here. And my second night in town, I had gone to a Houston Astros game with one of my friends in the show. And he had toured through Houston before, and he remembered that Houston had a really big queer scene, you know, queer nightlife scene. And so we went to Montrose, which is our big queer neighborhood here. And we just we hopped around to these different fun spots. And we ended up, you know, on the back patio of one of the gay bars here. And this really tall, handsome guy was there with a friend. And he's a huge Disney fan, so he overheard us talking about Aladdin, and that's kind of what sparked the conversation. And we just talked for hours and hours until the bar shut down, and we exchanged contact info. I got him tickets to see my show, and he's a Mississippi boy, and he grew up in rural Mississippi, where there's not a theater for, you know, maybe 50 miles. Like the theater is not big where he's from. So that was his first musical he had ever seen in his whole life, was Aladdin. And
Nice.
after I left town, you know, I'm like, all right, well, it's been fun. You know, I really like this guy, but I'm going to be on the road. I'm just kind of living my life. Who knows what's going to happen here? And so we ended up we talked every single day. We would video chat and text and call. And eventually we started visiting each other back and forth. He would meet me somewhere in the country, and I would come back to Houston. And we did that all the way up until the pandemic came, and I decided to come to Houston to ride out the few weeks long pandemic that was happening.
Right.
And it never stopped, and I never left. And I have come to call Houston my home. We are now married. And it's something I could never have planned in a million years. This New York City, Jersey guy moving to Houston, Texas to marry some guy from rural Mississippi. It just, you cannot, you can't, how can you, you know, foretell that that's going to happen?
Amazing love story. As I said, you wrote a song about it. I wouldn't know love. I mean, beautiful. I don't usually play two songs, but I'm going to play that at the end of the interview because it's
Okay,
just
great.
such a gorgeous song, talking about your guys' love for each other. And you wrote this and dedicated it to him. Such an amazing song. Talk about the creating of the video, though, because I am a huge dance fan. The choreography in this thing is absolutely beautiful, from in the home to in the park to just the entire movement of it is just beautiful, my friend. Talk about the creation of this music video.
It's so good to have talented friends in your life. Um, and I had released the song maybe just over a year ago. And in my second round of touring, one of my friends, Brandon Burks, who is an incredibly talented man, he does film, he does, you know, stage performing. He said, why don't we try collaborating on one of your songs and I'll do a music video. And I said, that's great. I had never even thought of a music video. You know, I'm not visually oriented. It's music is my thing. I don't draw. I'm bad at photos and videos. I don't do any of that stuff. And he was like, just let me get my hands on it and I'll come up with something and I'll pitch you the storyboard. And so he just came up with this idea to have these two guys kind of walking through a memory and we see them when they first meet, and then we see them at the bar. And the song is very much about, if XYZ didn't happen, then I wouldn't have met you. And then we wouldn't have fallen in love. And I might not even know what the meaning of true love is if all those things didn't happen and I didn't meet you. So the video really captures that. And we cast two incredible performers from the tour. It was Brandon Large and my good friend Daniel. And they nailed it. They did this incredible choreography together. It's so it's intimate, not necessarily in a sexual way. It's just so passionate and beautiful. It absolutely moved me to tears. And I'm really, really glad that song got got sort of an extra bonus storytelling version other than just the audio recording.
It's absolutely gorgeous. I love, like I said, I love the choreography. I love the ethnic diversity in it. I mean, it's just done so well. I've been lucky over the show to get good friends with David Hernandez and Benji Schwimmer from You So You Think You Can Dance, and they did that for David's song. "I Love You," and it was kind of saying it was a breakup song almost that Benji choreographed for him, and it brings such movement, such a depth of the performance in there. So good on you for doing that, using that technique and bringing that diversity of characters. So that
Yeah,
was
I'm
awesome.
really proud of that. Thank you for that.
You should be. And then talk about the Houston art scene. Now you've been there for whatever, 5 years or so. I mean, this year outsmarts gayest and greatest musician. I mean, they're loving you, my friend. Talk about making Houston your home and enjoying this kind of place.
And not only that, Outsmart just featured our wedding in their most recent publication. So, needless to say, Houston has been so good to me. It's been so good to us in a way that, don't get me wrong, I love New York City, and I will always consider myself a New Yorker. But New York is a sea of artists, all gunning after the same thing and the same jobs. And Houston is a lot more relaxed, and you would never believe how vibrant our arts community is here.
Love that.
We have two major regional theaters, the Alley and Theater Under the Stars. We have the Houston Grand Opera, the Houston Ballet, the Houston Symphony Orchestra. We have a Houston Latin Philharmonic. There's everything down here, and there are so many patrons who are willing to contribute financially to the arts here, which keeps us all employed and opens up so many doors for us. So Houston has become such a great home for me, um, not only as a musical theater performer, but as a musician. I have a residency at a piano bar down here called Michael's Outpost. And, I get to play these fancy little parties and a lot of the fundraising events for these theaters and the opera and the ballet. I also have been asked to entertain at a lot of those too. So there's great networking here. There's great connection building, and there is plenty of work for artists. So I say to
I
anyone who
love
is
that.
maybe feeling a little burnout, come to Houston. Houston's a great spot for the arts.
Who'd have thought that Texas has that little oasis there? Because you hear so many, we've got so many negative things going on right now. It's good to see the positives because there is places that are accepting and that we need to kind of explore and grow our footprint, right? Because I think that's how people learn to be less afraid, learn to be more tolerant, is when you're out in the community. So good on you guys for doing all that. That's amazing.
Thank you. We're very, very fortunate.
Love that. Well, let's get into the Christmas song. We have the beautiful tree behind you. And have you ever thought you were going to make Christmas in the past? I mean, it's called In My Arms is Christmas. You're collaborating with a friend, Melanie. Tell me how this came to pass. And I'm excited for you. I love Christmas. Oh my gosh.
We love Christmas too. My husband in particular is goes wild for Christmas. He's a floral designer, so he kind of does Christmas for a living. And we have this small one-bedroom apartment, but we have seven Christmas trees in our place. So we too are huge Christmas fans. And I was thinking, about someone like Mariah Carey, who has had such a wildly successful music career. But you look into what her number one song is, and it's All I Want for Christmas Is You. So I'm thinking, well, why don't I get my hands on this whole Christmas madness? Um, and I had come up with this song a handful of months ago, and I was in New York for a quick visit, and my friend Melanie, who's also a very successful, she's a really talented and successful songwriter, who I really admire. So I said, Melanie, I have this duet that I've been dreaming up. I don't know if it's any good. I don't know, if it's something you might be interested in, but let me just send it to you and see what you think. And she got back to me right away saying, I want to do this. Let's absolutely do this. And of course, once you mention something and put it out in the open, then there's pressure, Well, I've said it out loud. Now we have to get it together.
The only way I
And
get things done, my friend. But yeah, I hear you.
you have to. I mean, because if you keep something inside of your own brain, you're like, oh, I'll get to it whenever I get to it. And then years have passed and you're like, whatever happened to that song that I was going to write years ago? So I said it to her, the fire was ignited, and we did a sort of a distant recording collaboration where I did the piano and vocals down here in Houston, and then she did her vocals and worked with an instrumental arranger in New York, and we just kind of put this whole thing together from two different cities, and then we got together for a little music video session, and now the song is out. It's gotten awesome responses from supporters and friends and fans, and I hope that all of your supporters and fans here will also take a look at the song.
It's so great. Lots of fun. The music is incredible. Tell me about your songwriting process. Playing by ear is always a different thing. A lot of people are lyricists that kind of do the music later. Some people do the music, then add the lyrics. I mean, I can imagine playing by ear, you almost hear it as you're writing it. But tell me what your process is for writing.
Yeah, that's about right. Definitely hearing it while I write it. What I've noticed is that I melodies come to me at the most random times. It'll be like middle of the night. I wake up and I'm like, oh gosh, I have to write this down. Or, just as I'm going to sleep, I'm like, I can't go to bed right now. I have to get to the piano. Or I have to get to my voice memos. But I'm an avid runner too, and I've noticed that a lot of the melodies come to me mid-run because I like to run with no music. I like to have the sounds of nature. So I'll go out for a run and then something will come to me. And so I'll have to pull over and sit on a bench and record something, and then I get back to my run. So usually some kind of melodic theme will come into my brain and will have some loose, murky lyrics attached to them, like one or two lines. And then from there, I usually start by building the song chorus. And then once I have the chorus established, then I can get the verses and the bridge. Um, and once the chorus is written, I feel like the rest of the song comes very quickly. And so I'd say that In My Arms this Christmas was probably just like a 2 hour songwriting session, and it was done. It was
That's
done.
amazing. Wow. And then talk about, I mean, that's a beautiful duet. Now we have Finally Home for Christmas out, which is really kind of a bop. I love the horns. I'm a huge brass player. I love to have that and percussion. Talk to me about how that came to you.
That one also came to me on a run. This one came to me probably a year ago. I was on tour with Aladdin, and it was towards the end of my time. I think we were playing in, I want to say like Spokane, Washington, or somewhere in Canada. And I was getting really homesick. It was around the holidays, and I don't know. I was feeling the burn. I was missing home. And so while I was running, I just kept hearing this finally home for Christmas, finally home. And I kept singing it over and over again. And I recorded it in my phone. And then I just kind of left it. I left it alone for a handful of months until we were approaching this holiday season. And I said, I got to get that song out too. So I sat down and That one took a lot longer. I would say that song took me like 3 weeks to write because I kept doing draft after draft, and I was getting really meticulous about it. And finally, I landed on something I was happy with. And so I recorded that down here, the piano and vocals, and then I went up to New York, where some of my favorite horn players are. And I did a session with them not too long ago. And here we've got a final product. So this is totally different from In My Arms. It's very upbeat, it's fun, it's nostalgic. The horns are out of this world, and it's a feel-good Christmas song.
I'm so excited for you for sharing the art like this. And like I said, holiday times are so special for me and amazing. So congratulations on all this. I'm just so excited to finally have a chance to talk to you about this. Have you booked any shows you're going to be performing some of this at this winter around the Houston area?
Right now, I'm sharing my music with my friends at the piano bar that I play at. So if anyone wants to see me, live, it's great to just join me around the piano at Michael's Outpost. And then I have another song that I'm going to be releasing right at the start of 2025. At which point I will plan some live performances. So you heard it here. I haven't told anyone this actually, that I have this other single, which is a very kind of like self-affirming. It's a great way to start off the new year. So stay tuned for that one and for some potential concert dates as well.
A scoop here on Left of Str8 Show interviews. I'm excited for you, my friend. This has been an amazing chat. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on the show, Ben. I'm just like so impressed with your talent and moreover, just who you are as a person. So thanks so much for sharing with my audience today on Left of Str8 Show interviews.
Thank you, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Hope to come back soon.
Let all my listeners know where they can find your fantastic website that has some great opportunities to listen to some of the past music and some of the artwork for your album covers, and where they can follow you on social media, because that's what the cool kids do this year.
For sure. Yes, please feel free to visit benchavezmusic.com, where you can get links to my music. You can also sign up to join my mailing list. And then if you're on Instagram, you can follow me at Ben_, that's 2 underscores, Chavez. And truly the best thing that listeners can do, if you're on Spotify, if you add my music to a playlist of yours, maybe your favorites playlist or your feel-good playlist or something, that's great, because every stream counts. And if you play your playlist all the time, then it means that my song might come up. And that's great for new artists who are trying to build a subscriber base.
Well said. And as I always say, don't be cheap ass bastards. Buy the music when you have a chance.
Buy it.
Playlist. Buy the music. Ben Chavez, thank you so much for being on Left of Str8 Show interviews. Stay on the line for me. Guys, we're going to have a special 5 questions with Ben next week, so be sure to look for that. We hope you guys have a fantastic holiday season. Hallmark movies are upon us, and fantastic music by Ben Chavez just for you this holiday season. We'll see you next time. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
It gets better. Just think, you could be standing in front of your lifelong love here today. But worst of all, you could get nervous, say you don't deserve it, and then walk away. Oh, 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 if you were out on that patio, smoking your cigarette, I wouldn't even know you. If you hadn't chimed into my conversation, I wouldn't be able to show you just how much somebody can love someone else. It's more than the stars up above. Oh, darling, if I didn't know you, I wouldn't know love. Oh, darling, if I didn't know